Hey everybody, here's a pre-Christmas 2010 update on the Cube Computer MidTower Deluxe. It was about a month ago that I finally got this machine upgraded. It now is based on a AM3 setup with the 965 AMD Black Edition CPU, Phenom 2. It has 4 gigs of DDR3 memory. And of course the hard drives have not changed. 1TB RAID stripe with 1TB backup. Have a 650 watt power supply. For graphics we have a Radeon HD 3450. And I'll go ahead and give you some technical updates on this setup. Currently I have the 965 AMD CPU overclocked from 3.4 gig to 3.8 gig with simply a multiplier increase. We'll now go ahead and pull up CPU Z to have a look here. Here's CPU Z. Of course, our CPU is the Phenom 2 X4965 Black with the NAND core, socket AM3, 45 nanometer technology. I currently have it at 1.45 volts, and I simply had this CPU overclocked with a multiplier change. The default multiplier has been up to 19. The bus has been untouched, nor has the memory been touched. Everything is still original, which the memory is not actually running at its maximum speed. It's at 1333. Our main board is the MSI 870A G54, which is also known as the MS7599. Has the AMD 870 North Bridge and the South Bridge 850. Has AMI BIOS. And of course our PCI Express x16. Currently I'm cooling this CPU with a modified Sunbeam Silent Whisper heat pipe cooler that has been lapped, and I installed a faster fan on it. I'm currently using an 80mm AVC high velocity fan with hydraulic bearings, which they claim to be maintenance free, but I have my own personal opinions about that. Anyways, on the motherboard for the North Bridge cooling I have my Xiamen cooler, which you might say is that big old thing. I did have that. I've had that cooler since 2008. I had it on my old Cellular P4X100 Dragon Ultra mainboard, which is a socket 408 motherboard. It worked out quite well. Which you can zoom in here and we can see that this motherboard is a military class. Not a bad mainboard in my opinion. It has lots of settings. Which, back to the CPU cooling, even with this massive heat pipe cooler, I still do get quite hot temps. At idle, this thing tends to run in the mid 40s to low 40s, and at max load it will get to the mid to upper 50s, which is quite warm considering the CPU's maximum safe temperature is 62 degrees Celsius, which I've actually got it that high before under max load and hot conditions. The thing about these Phenom 2s, the 965s, is on air cooling, 3.8 gigahertz is like a brick wall. You cannot get higher than that unless you go with a really good air cooler or go on with a water cooling setup. And it took forever to get this thing stable at 3.8 until I got enough volts going to it, which it runs pretty hot under load. And the reason why this computer is quiet right now because I had this fan set in smart fan mode with a 50% PWM for idle, and I have it set to increase the PWM once the motherboard temperature reaches 50 degrees Celsius or higher. And back to the motherboard, the only thing I'm really disappointed about with this motherboard is, considering that it's called a military class board, it doesn't have any heat sinks on the MOSFETs. I'm kind of disappointed about that, which I'll probably get some aftermarket MOSFET heat sinks for this main board, which it does have a decent design. Take a look here at this little decal. It says icy choke, which claims that the setup runs cooler, which it probably does, but I'd still prefer to have heat sinks on those MOSFETs. And soon I'll probably be getting a Corsair H50 high performance CPU cooler, which is a self-contained water cooling system pre-filled. to go in this system to help cool the CPU down a bit more, so I could probably get a higher overclock out of it. And for the memory, I'm planning on upgrading to possibly 12 gigabytes of DDR3 memory. It's the exact same memory, G-Skill rip jaws. I'll probably be upgrading to 12 gigabytes worth of it, because I do a lot of video editing, and Google Earth 6 loves a lot of RAM. It uses up a lot of the memory. So I'm going to go ahead and give this puppy a lot of memory to handle that. Which I don't do much gaming with this machine. I do basically internet browsing, picture editing, video editing, which is why I need powerful CPU power, and Google Earth, which Google Earth 6 is, in my opinion, is the biggest resource hog of all the Google Earth versions released. So the MidTower Deluxe is well on its way. It's got a decent mainboard, decent CPU. I may be upgrading the graphics card sooner or later to a 5000 series. Don't expect to be a high-end card, just something, you know, better than what I currently have. Anyways, have any questions or comments or suggestions? Let me know.